Hello friends, it's Shari, and today I'm making a platform pop-up card with a new little twist using the mini pop-up box die. So I'm going to start out by using the Watercolor Wishes Rainbow 12 by 12 sheet to cut the base of my platform pop-up. So you basically need a piece of paper that's 6 by 6 for each of these pieces for the pop-up box. And that works out perfect because the Watercolor Wishes Rainbow has these stripes in the design. So I've cut two 6 by 6 squares with the same two colored stripes, and I'll make sure that I cut my pieces the same. So I have that dark stripe towards the top. That's going to be the outside of my box. And then the lighter will be the top on the platform area where my other things are going to set. So I'm just folding along the score lines that the die creates for me and enforcing those folds with my bone folder. And then I will go ahead and put adhesive on all the little tabs. Now I am going to not quite assemble this just yet, but I do want to make a note that I don't need those T pieces that we normally use for the platform pop-up. I'm not going to have any of those in this particular project. So I'll just set these aside, and now I'm going to show you how to make the little pig box. So this is the mini pop-up box die. This is designed to go inside of a card, and when you open up the card, you get this box that pops up. I'm going to be cutting this from some apricot cardstock, but I don't need the little flaps of the box, so I'm just going to trim all those off. And then I can fold along the score lines that the die creates. This will create a box with no flaps, and then those two triangle pieces are the pieces that go on the bottom, like where the platform is. And this is an older die, but I thought this was a fun new way to bring some life back to it. The tiny gift box dies of the animals fit this box, which is perfect, and that is what I'm going to be using to make my little pig. So I'm actually using the horse and unicorn die because it has this sorry, that's my new little puppy Scout barking. She's laying in my lap. Anyway, it has this nose that works perfectly for a pig. And then I'm using the arms from the new goat and llama tiny gift box to create some hooves in the front. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my little pig nose. Normally this nose lines up with the holes that the die creates, but because I added those arms and hooves in the front, I'm just going to scooch it up a little bit, but that works perfectly because now I have that apricot looking through, which I kind of like better than dark nostrils on my cute little nose. I'm going to use some narwhal cardstock for the little hooves, and I'm just dabbing this onto my glue tube off screen that's sitting over there because there was a little glue on it. Adding those to the hooves that were cut with the die from the goat set, and then I'm also adding a piece of that same narwhal cardstock behind the eyes. So the eyes will have that lighter gray color as well. So I am going to go ahead and assemble my box before I decorate it, and I'm just going to put everything together onto that platform so that I make sure I am decorating the right side of the box. I would hate to decorate a side and realize that when I put this together that my pig is facing the wrong direction. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble the platform piece. Like I said earlier, I don't need any of those T pieces that we normally use in a platform pop-up because my box is going to cover up the whole platform. It's going to cover up those little slits that are cut. So I can just assemble this like normal but without those T pieces. And now that I have the two together, I can just fold this over and line up the rectangular piece and that last little flap. And then there is my platform. Now for the mini pop-up box, the adhesive is going to go on those triangular pieces. So I'm just going to put some adhesive across those. I put about 3 pieces. And then I want to fold it like this because this, where the two triangles come together, is what goes in the crease of the card normally. So you can see I lined that up with the center, and then I just folded my platform pop-up as if it was folded up in a card, and that put that box in the perfect place. So now I know which side to put my little pig's face on. I'm also going to add some hind legs to the sides of it using the goat and llama tiny gift box set. So it has these little legs, they're going to work perfect on the sides. And then also there are hooves that match those little legs. So I cut the legs out of apricot to match my pig's body and the hooves out of that narwhal cardstock to match the hooves on the front. And in reality, I probably only needed to add one of these because the one on the back you're not going to see very much because of the background that I'm going to put on here. But, you know, just in case someone's paying attention, it's probably good to have a symmetrical pig. And by the way, this is a Charlotte's Web themed platform pop-up card. So this is Wilbur. I should probably stop calling him the pig because it's Wilbur. So now to work on the background, I'm using the Platform Pop-Up add-on piece. I'm also going to be using the cute little stitch clouds and the sun that come with the add-on. And this little picket fence is from the Scallop Treat Box add-on. There's also a picket fence in the Build-A-House Spring add-on, but this one is from the Scallop Treat Box. And then I'm also cutting myself a barn from the Barn Red cardstock. And then I'm going to give it some texture by running it through again on the stitched wood grain backdrop. So I'm just going to line it up where I get two of those sort of knots in the design, and I'll just hold it in place with a piece of tape so it stays up and down in place, and then I have this cool wood grain texture on my barn. For the roofs, I'm using some Storm Cloud cardstock, which is that darker gray. And I really wanted to go with just kind of a classic barn look for this. So all the doors and shutters that you see cut there, those are cut from some vanilla malt cardstock, so we get that creamy color. And I'm just folding these little shutters along the score line. These are pretty delicate, so I'm just being very careful. Now these little shutters, I'm actually going to end up gluing back so that they're not standing out. Since this is going to fold flat because it's a platform pop-up, this is going to be on the background. I'm just putting a little bit of glue around the frame, which fits perfectly around the opening that the die creates. And you can line it up really easy from the back too if you feel like it's off a little bit. And then for the door, I don't need this to open either, so I'm not even going to bother folding this one. I only folded the top because I am going to put something in that hayloft. And I decided to back it with that narwhal cardstock. So I'm just going to trace around it and just cut a square that's slightly smaller. It doesn't matter if it's perfect because it's going to be hidden behind that die cut of the doors. And then now I can basically just glue my doors shut by adhering this behind it. And I'm just using my grid mat to make sure I get it nice and centered. I've got some pieces from the Build-A-House Haunted House add-on. I used the spider and the spider web. And I have a piece of paper bag cardstock cut a little bigger than that opening in the hayloft, and that's where I'm going to add Charlotte, my spider. So I cut the spider web from some iridescent shimmery vellum. So you have that sort of shimmer that you see when you see spider webs in the sun. And then I can just layer this behind. Now you're not going to see this whole spider web, you're just going to see a part of it because it's bigger than the opening. And then that cute little spider fits inside here perfectly. And then of course I wanted to add my little star to my barn because that's my favorite part of the barn die. And then the trim pieces at the bottom, which is also cut from that Storm Cloud cardstock. I decided not to add the little windows on the barn and just keep it simple. And then here is where I realized that I could just glue those shutters back so they stay nice and flat. And then now I can start to add all this to my background piece. Now my background piece is cut from some blue spiffy speckles, so I get a nice light colored sky. And I'm just going to glue the barn directly to that centerpiece. It fits in there perfectly. The lower roof overlaps a little bit across the fold, and I'll just gently fold that roof along there once I get that on. But the width of the barn itself fits perfect in that center panel of the add-on. And then I can just kind of bend it a little bit at those creases. I'm just bending the edge of the roof. I don't need to fold it completely because this is never folded at a really sharp angle. So you can see how that's sort of going to come together. Now before I glue this on there, of course I want to finish decorating it, so I'm going to add my little fences to each side. And they're almost the perfect width to almost completely cover the add-on. I don't mind that it stops short of the edge. And then of course my little clouds, and I like that they sort of overhang. I decided on this left side I should add a second one so that I have 3 clouds, because things are always better in threes. And I ended up putting my sunshine coming over the top of the barn. So here's that third cloud that I added to the left side. And then I can add the 1/8 inch wide double-sided tape right along the bottom of this background piece. And then that's going to fit perfectly right inside the lip of the platform box. So I just like to make sure that my tape is nice and stuck down by using my bone folder. I'm going to peel off that liner paper and then tuck it right inside the inside edge of my box. Make sure it's stuck down really well. Now for my sentiment. Of course, I'm using my terrific sentiment because that's one of the words that Charlotte spins into her web. So my sentiment today is going to say, "You are terrific." And I'm using stamps from the Reveal Wheel sentiment set. That's where I found the perfect stamps to create that little sentiment. And I just cut that panel that goes on the front of the platform pop-up box from some craft cardstock. And that'll just go right on the front of my platform pop-up. I did decide it needed to be filled in just a little bit, so I actually had the Booyah stamp set out because I was looking at the spider in that one earlier, and there was a little heart, so I just filled that in with a little heart. There are hearts in all kinds of Lawn Fawn sets. This just happened to be the one that was sitting on my desk while I worked on this card. And then I'm going to line that up on that front panel. And you can see there as I'm adhering this down how that's going to flatten out in a card. You put it in an envelope, and then you pop up and you get the pig. And I realized later that he needed a tail. So I actually used the curly cue from the mini pop-up box die set and added a curly tail to the back of my Wilbur pig. So you can see that here in the picture. And I just think this was so much fun. I had this idea and I'm so glad it worked out, and it really gives some new possibilities to both of these dies, and I hope that you try this out. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye.